think of Dikembe Mutombo, I think of the finger wave, right? It's synonymous with him. How many times have we done that where we're at the park playing with our buddies or with our friends? We block that shot. No, not in my house. That has to mean something. It represents his defensive greatness. That doesn't mean that he was the best shot blocker out there. Like Hakeem Olajuwon, right? He's the better shot blocker. He has more blocks than him. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a great shot blocker. If we're talking about the greatest shot blockers of all time, you got to bring up Bill Russell, you got to bring up Will Chamberlain. But with those four examples, when you think of Hakeem Olajuwon, you think of the dream shake before you even think of blocking shots. Kareem is the sky hook. Bill Russell is winning championships. And with Will Chamberlain, you think of scoring, you think of all the records that he's broken. But with Dikembe Mutombo, he's known for one thing only, and that's blocking shots. Right? It's his defensive greatness that not only just made him such a marketable player, right? He's in all these commercials where we all know who he is, but he was able to change so many teams for the better. And that's all part of his greatness, not just blocking shots, the finger wave, or his defense. He helped every team that he was in to win and to become better. And his numbers prove that. If you look at the accolades, the achievements that he was able to obtain, I think the most important one, 4 times he won the Defensive Player of the Year award. He was an All-Star 8 times, and especially when you think about the competition that he had to face in the 90s and the 2000s, all the great big men that he had to compete with, 8 times in the All-Star game. That just shows how great of a player he was. 3-time All-NBA, 1 second team. 6-time All-NBA defense, 3 first teams, and 3 second teams. He led the league in blocks 3 times. Led the league in rebounds twice. He's second all-time in career blocks. And he is 20th all-time in career rebounds. So when you talk about what the job is of a big man, especially during this time, you got to protect the paint. You got to be able to grab rebounds. Right? The old saying back in the day was, if you win the rebound battle, you're going to win the game. There are many big men that did both jobs better than he did. What really stuck to my mind was a meaningless All-Star game. It's probably the greatest All-Star game of all time. 2001. We remember the legacy of that All-Star game. We think of Allen Iverson winning the MVP, leading the East to that amazing comeback. We think of Kobe Bryant making clutch shot after clutch shot, trading baskets with Stephon Marbury. So I think of a lot of great things that happened during that All-Star game. But let's not forget what Dikembe Mutombo did. What I remember vividly is Marv Albert and Doug Collins, like the play-by-play announcers, were just marveling at how many shots Dikembe Mutombo was altering in that game. He was the one that allowed the East squad to come back and to beat the West. And if you remember, the West had so many incredible big men that were playing in that game. Yes, Shaq was injured. He wasn't there. Tim Duncan was playing. Kevin Garnett was playing. Chris Webber, Rasheed Wallace, Karl Malone, Antonio McDyess, I believe, was in that game as well. Just so many incredible big men. But Dikembe Mutombo's presence alone in the painted area allowed his team to come back. Larry Brown was so impressed that it was no accident that later on he traded Theo Ratliff to get Dikembe Mutombo. So when it seemed like there was no hope to win, he altered that game and they did the impossible. They were able to complete the comeback. The next thing that I think of when I think of the greatness of Dikembe Mutombo, the 1994 first round series against the Seattle Supersonics. Very similar circumstances, right? Everyone thought the Sonics were going to destroy the Denver Nuggets. They were the first seed. They won 63 games that year. And they go up 2-0. So again, another comeback that Denver Nuggets have to do, a team led by Dikembe Mutombo, but they defeat the odds thanks to his defense. Now, how do we know this? We go to Game 4. He goes for 8 blocks. Game 5, deciding game, 8 blocks again. He completely shuts down the middle, and he was the reason why Shawn Kemp was inefficient that series. Look at his whole playoff career. Shawn Kemp was always efficient. It didn't matter who he was playing against. But with Dikembe Mutombo guarding the middle, he averaged 37% from the field for that series. And remember, this was a team whose best player was Shawn Kemp. Gary Payton wasn't Gary Payton just yet. Again, he was a perennial all-star caliber player, but their best player was Shawn Kemp. And he was taken out of that series because of Dikembe Mutombo. I mean, look at these numbers. 12.6 points per game, 12.2 rebounds per game, 6.2 blocks per game. I mean, that is just incredible. In fact, it's a record for the most blocks for a 5-game series. Let's not forget that the previous year, in 1993, the Suns were 1 game away from going to the finals and playing against the Chicago Bulls. They took the Suns to 7 games. This was the same team, and they were motivated, ready to prove themselves to the world. They lose in the first round because of one player. Again, the Nuggets had some good pieces, right? But their best player was Dikembe Mutombo. That's how much he impacted the defensive end. Completely altered the series. But he could also completely alter the landscape of a team. He goes to the Atlanta Hawks. Now remember, this is a team, prior to get trading from the Denver Nuggets, they're trying to get out of the Dominique Wilkins era, and they're trying to prove themselves as well. So in the previous year, in 1996, before they get Mutombo, they won 46 games. That's pretty good. Mutombo comes in. They won 56 games. So they increased by 10 games. They went from finishing 16th in defensive rating. They go to 3rd in Mutombo's first season there. Following year, they win 50 games. Now check out the 1999 lockout season. They have the record for the lowest opponent's points per game for a single season. They allowed 83.4 points per game. I can guarantee you that Dikembe Mutombo was a huge reason for that success. Obviously, the circumstances of that season, where it's a lockout, nobody's playing at their best. Also, it was a defensive era, not a lot of scoring going on, so that has a lot to do with this record. But Mutombo shutting down the middle was a huge reason why the Atlanta Hawks were so successful during those years before 2000 when they blew everything up. We fast forward to after that All-Star game in 2001. Now he's in the Philadelphia 76ers. At 34 years old, he wins the Defensive Player of the Year award. Right, so that just shows that the Philadelphia 76ers were much more than just Allen Iverson, who, of course, carried his team on offense. But the 76ers' strong point, their strength, was defense. So they had a lot of great pieces, of course. But Mutombo was the anchor for their defense. And that's why they were able to be so successful, even though they only had one player that could create shots for himself. Now, this is to prove how important he was and his contributions to that playoff run. Just to prove that it wasn't just Allen Iverson. Game 7 in conference finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. Huge game. And Iverson had an incredible game. I don't have the notes in front of me for that particular game. I think he scored 47 points, which was, at that time, top 3, top 5 for the highest scoring game in the Game 7. Iverson did his thing. But Mutombo, 23 points, 19 rebounds, 7 blocks. That is a very respectable stat line for a crucial game to help lead his team to a finals berth. Wasn't just Iverson. Mutombo did his part, and he deserves a lot of credit for that one finals appearance that he had for his career. So I look back at it, and I'm like, he goes to the Hall of Fame, and he is so worthy of that appearance. First ballot Hall of Famer for sure. You look back at his career, everywhere he went, his teams got that much better. Because in a defensive era, you needed a player like him, and he delivered time and time again. Makes me wonder what would have happened if he had a player like Allen Iverson throughout his whole career, what kind of success he could have had. But he made the best of it in just half a season. Team goes to the finals. Whether it's changing a meaningless All-Star game, changing the identity of a team, or changing an entire playoff series, Mutombo would make you think twice of entering near his vicinity if you want to be able to score under the basket. And more times than not, he was going to block that shot and wave that finger at you. Well, this is for you, Dikembe Mutombo. You're going to be greatly missed.